we all just get along is the question attributed to Rodney King's quote. You may smile, frown, debate, or dismiss this question, but every day we read and see news that either confirms or answers it for you. I'm Addi Banks, and this is my report. Headline: How Indian American Spelling Bee Dominance May Fuel Educational Inequalities. June 3rd, 2022. Harini Logan is pictured being embraced by her father after winning the 2022 Scripps National Spelling Bee. Harini is the latest young American of Asian Indian heritage to participate and win this contest. Dr. Pawan Dhingra, professor of sociology at Amherst College, writes that despite Indian Americans being about 1.3% of the US population, over the past 20 years, they have dominated the Scripps National Spelling Bee, with 21 of the past 23 championships being of South Asian descent. She noted that in 2021, a young Black girl, 14 years old, Zayla Avant-Garde, won the contest and only started competing a couple of years before her win. Point being, the ethnic group is not the biggest factor in winning the competition, but the determination and commitment to what is called spelling the dream. She describes this as Indians perceiving their education hurdles as higher than others. As a sociologist, she believes that their achievements inadvertently further educational inequalities. Dr. Dhingra spent years studying Indian Americans, whites, and others engaged in spelling bees, math competitions, and other academics while researching her book, Hyper Education: Why Good Schools, Good Grades, and Good Behavior are Not Enough. She explains why Indian Americans have come to dominate spelling bees by a commitment to prepare their children for success by spending time and money on after-school programs to excel in spelling bees, geography, math, and other academic competitions. She reports that parents expected first place outcomes. But most American children participate in activities outside of the home, she writes, like sports, the arts, religious, and civic activities. While Indian immigrant children do these things, their parents also make them participate in extracurricular academic activities, especially competitive ones. Their why is that this gives children a better shot at getting into a prominent university with undeniably strong academic records that they believe will compensate for weak networks and a lack of college legacy status. Parents also worried that college admission officers might hold their children as Asian Americans to a higher standard in expected test scores. One spelling contest father said, quote, "We have to have 130 points on the SAT exam above other groups." He assured her that tutoring centers and spelling bees would help his daughter get a higher score, an attitude echoed by other parents and children alike. Another point presented here is that after-school education for their children is familiar because it is part of parents' own upbringing. Many have advanced degrees and grew up with intense academic expectations. She further writes that this is a troubling trend that widens educational gaps between higher income and lower income families. She notes that Hexco, a publisher specializing in contest preparation, sells word guides and packages for $1,725. And they advertise that 94% of spellers who advanced to the Scripps finals were Hexco customers. Indian Americans gravitate toward academic competitions because they worry that otherwise their children will lack equal opportunities. This, according to Dr. Dinga, they reinforce educational inequality. So, what does that mean? And how has it been interpreted? I looked at commenters on this article. First, one outcome is the same: growing educational inequality. Translation: we want equality of outcomes, not equality of opportunity based on the one meaningless variable of race. Another wrote, "I am offended. As an immigrant Indian American parent, I am offended. The author depicts us as culprits, mad, conniving folks. Yes, strong academics focus is a ticket to better colleges and careers. We put education first as our children grow here in America." Hyphenated American wrote, "Instead of celebrating their achievements, the left is upset. They would rather Indian families spend money on drugs and alcohol than education because they want everyone to be equally stupid and uneducated. Tell me this is not evil." Let's Be Fair wrote, "Let's just forget the sacrifices these kids make, the amount of time studying, etc. Maybe that's where the inequalities lie. Maybe other races are just lazier than others." Finally, people who work hard will achieve results. The opposite end will continue speaking Ebonics. Ebonics? Consider this. Around the world, in every nation and every community, most people live what we refer to as normal lives. You may be one of them. Your goals are to enjoy family, friends, perhaps involvement in church and civic activities. You want your children to be exposed to music athletics, the arts, and other cultural traditions. Just life. You want to live well with a home, vacations, dependable transportation, and lots of laughter in your home, perhaps watching television shows and playing games together. There is no desire to be in the news for any reason. Only your friends and family need to know your name. You enjoy the people at work and wish them well. In old age, you want to enjoy grandchildren and look back over a successful, satisfying life. No fame, no wealth. You want to leave a good name and perhaps a nest egg legacy of property and resources. That's it. Now, consider that you live in America, where the ambitious, competitive, hungry for success, fame, and fortune come from around the world for their American dream, as they define it. Their American dream may be about winning, achieving, and sending money home. They are the ones who believe that over there, they can do what cannot be done at home. They come to compete and best the native citizens and may call them lazy, lacking in ambitious, or focus on less important things. They have something to prove, and they sometimes use their children to prove it. This is demonstrated by an article about Thomas Jefferson High School in Northern Virginia. The headline reads, "Supreme Court lets Thomas Jefferson High School admissions policy stand." April 25th, 2020. The Supreme Court on Monday left in place an admissions system for a prestigious science and technology high school that administrators said opened admissions to a wider socioeconomic range of students, but opponents claimed discriminated against Asian American applicants. The legal battle was between a group of parents called the Coalition for TJ and the Fairfax County School Board regarding admissions. A federal judge earlier this year said a new admission policy adopted in 2020 was improperly motivated by the Fairfax County Public Schools' desire for racial balancing, and that it disproportionately harmed Asian American applicants who made up a majority of the school's student body. 2 years earlier, the Fairfax superintendent, Scott Brabrand, proposed a series of changes meant to boost diversity at the school, including nixing a notoriously difficult admissions test and $100 application fee. In the fall and winter of 2020, the school board approved Brabrand's changes to institute a new holistic review admissions process for TJ. Under the new system, each middle school that feeds into TJ would presumptively be allowed seats equal to 1.5% of the school's 8th grade population. Applicants must achieve an unweighted GPA of at least 3.5, while taking higher level courses and complete a math or science problem-solving exam and a student portrait sheet. Applicants' races are not considered. Administrators weigh 4 experience factors for each applicant, including whether they are low income, have special needs, come from households that do not speak English, or attend a middle school that has historically sent few students to TJ. What this sounds like to me is an America that embraces all, giving opportunities to those who can succeed at this school, who have roots in the community and will give back to the community. Sounds like American values to me. In June 2021, the school admitted its first class of applicants under the new system, accepting the most diverse group of students in recent memory. A full quarter of offers went to low-income students, 11% to Hispanic students, and 7% to Black students. Previously, these demographic groups had represented somewhere between 1% and 5% of classes, like No Child Left Behind. The percentage of offers going to white students was roughly steady at 22%. But the percentage of offers sent to Asian students dropped significantly, falling from a typical 70% to about 55%. Had parents invested in their children to win over others despite their history and investments in this country? The Coalition for TJ wrote in its own statement that the Supreme Court's decision means the school system, quote, can continue with this illegal, unconstitutional, and anti-Asian admissions process, end quote. The group added that our struggle for justice is not over, and we are not at all dissuaded. Hurting students whose parents have invested in them winning. The article points to this issue that will be confronted by the Supreme Court when it examines the admission policy at Harvard University, where challengers say the university's consideration of race is one factor in building a diverse student body that has hurt Asian American applicants. In 2016, Chris Fuchs reported that a coalition of 132 Asian American organizations is expected to file a complaint with the Federal Departments of Education and Justice, alleging that Yale University, Dartmouth College, and Brown University discriminate against Asian Americans in their admissions process. The complaint, drafted by the Asian American Coalition for Education, accuses the 3 Ivy League schools of denying admission to Asian American students with near perfect SAT scores and GPAs in the top 1%, while accepting applicants of other races with similar accolades. The groups also allege that racial quotas and caps are used to maintain, quote, ideal racial balances, unquote, that have kept the percentage of Asian American students at these schools unchanged over the last 2 decades. Quote, we strongly request Attorney General Loretta Lynch, a Black American, and Education Secretary John King to please help us stop this discrimination against Asian Americans. Do not let our children be treated as second-class citizens. Second-class citizens? Do they know or care about racial disparities in the history of the United States? Do they care about repairs from the setbacks of slavery, Jim Crow, and discrimination over 400 years? If they know, do they not care? Push those others aside and let our children win first, even though we have educational institutions in our homeland pumping out millions of STEM graduates each year to no Black or Hispanic competition there. Federal data showed a few years ago that Yale's undergraduate student body was 40% white, 20% Asian, 14% Hispanic/Latino, 8% Black, and 70% multiracial. The Black category included Black descendants of slaves, as well as Africans and Caribbean immigrants. Yet Asian American groups are calling foul the use of race to determine admissions at Ivy League colleges. America, the land of opportunity. The builders were white, Black, immigrants who took opportunities to pave roads for their heirs. In homelands far away, they too built opportunities for their people that are denied to foreigners. But come and take in America if you can get here.
Resentment. You ask about the foundations of resentments against ethnic groups, including immigrants. Consider the ingredients of the American resentment pie. Owners and others. Owners control the governance, dominant culture, values, and economic systems of the land. They may accept others, but prefer them to be useful yet silent, grateful just to be here. When the others consider themselves entitled to equal ownership and changes in their way of life, expect resistance and resentment. Natives remind them of the melting pot ideal to fit in and play the game on our field and with our rules. The when in Rome, do as the Romans do. This, they claim, worked for the early immigrants to America. Today, it is perceived that the rules have changed for immigrants who come to take pieces of their pie, taking and not trying to fit in, to accept that first, here, are more entitled because they built the country and created an inheritance for their own. Replacement theories surface from many groups saying, Who invited them here? It is important to understand that perceptions are what sprouts trees of resentment. The actual numbers, like only 1% of the population, holds little weight to those seeing takeover of entire industries, displacement, disrespect of persons, and they become angry. They watch the takeover replacements at American schools. Anger fumes when the pie is topped by hate rhetoric. Subtle racism may be missed, but when you read articles like Data, Latina Youth Struggle with Mental Health in 2020 due to immigration, poverty, bullying, and other family and social factors that cause stress living in America. Many immigrant groups suffer from never belonging despite their time in America. This is not what they expected when they sought the American dream.
I believe that it is unfair to label all ethnic groups the same. Be the stereotypes positive or negative. However, when competition between those seeking the dream impacts those who just want to live life in their country, conflicts are inevitable.
What else? Asian American young adults are the only racial group with suicide as their leading cause of death. So why is no one talking about this? According to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. When broken down by race, suicide is the first leading cause of death among Asian American young adults age 15 to 24. This is true of no other racial group in this age range in America. Coming to America to create a better life for our children. An Indian family moved from California to North Carolina for their daughter to participate in a STEM summer program. She was the immediate academic star, despite being quite young. After the program ended, she was showcased for completing exemplary work and made her family very proud. When we read about eager parents preparing children to be stars, they need to also consider the pressure being placed on their child. Who are they representing, and what are they trying to prove?